Great. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining. We're very happy to have you here. It's Friday, the end of the week, and we actually have a lot to do today with a special event. We're very excited to have you with us today, so thanks for joining again. Today, we're going to talk about energy transition, and SDG number 7. It's part of our campaign at the moment, a campaign that is all about sustainable development. And we're very excited with the B Corp movement and B Lab, right, that we are fighting and trying to change the economic system to make it more sustainable and fair, regenerative, and contributive for all. That during this campaign, we're actually promoting the impact that all the actors in our movement are having towards all those different goals. Today, as I said, we're going to focus on the number 7, but do not hesitate to check out the other activations that happened a few days before, as we focus each day on a new one. But today we're focusing, as we said, we're going to talk about energy. We're going to talk about how energy is linked to also other societal aspects. We're going to talk about what's the best way to address this issue. We're going to talk about the power of partnerships, about the role that businesses can play in that transition. So we have a lot to talk about together. But before that, I would like just to present the amazing speakers that are coming along with me. And maybe I could actually start to present myself. And my name is Neila Benamara. I'm the SDG program manager for BLab Europe. I'm, as my title says, all about SDGs, of course, and trying to make sure that companies can measure the impact and improve that so that we can indeed achieve that common vision. And I'm joined today with, as I said, amazing speakers and inspiring that are actually playing a role on their everyday life to contribute to that specific SDG, but also to other topics themselves. So I'm happy to present Taryn Lane, who's the manager at Hepburn Winds, which is a women and community-owned wind farm. And it's actually all about, also it's Australia's first community-owned wind farm located in Leonards Hill. And the farm has 4.1 megawatt capability. It's all about to the member shareholders that are also part of the project. And the idea is about fighting, taking constructive action against climate change to put it directly in the benefits for the community. So we're happy to have you with us, Taryn. We have also Corey Lin, who's the CEO of Domi Earth. And Domi Earth is a social innovation company that is empowering collective action for the clean energy transition, but also to fight against energy poverty in Taiwan. And the first mission is really to speed up the adoption of the simple and proven technologies and behaviors to save energy. You will see that it's a very integrated approach, focusing on shared value, creating values for customers, and finding a business solution to this issue. So we'll talk a little more about that. Then we have Thibaut Couturier, who's the investment director of ENGIE. And ENGIE, Rassembleur d'énergie, is working in an investment fund to provide access to energy, which is at the heart of all the investment that it's doing, towards and also aiming towards sustainable economic growth and social inclusion and environmental preservation together with it. And it's the goal of ENGIE, Rassembleur d'énergie, is really to tackle the challenges of energy poverty by investing in social enterprise. And we will have joining us in a moment, hopefully she will be able to join very soon, Gilfin, who's Gilfin Yangassi, who's the Assistant Director of Solibrium Solar. Solibrium is a for-profit company enterprise in Kenya working to bring affordable solar products in communities. And their motto, Nuru Maishani, in Swashi, meaning light in your life, which is a very beautiful saying. It's all about bringing into the electricity age everyone so that it's inclusive and universal. So again, I'm very happy to present everyone. And before we start talking together, we actually want to make you as the audience participate to this conversation. So we will see in the chat right at the moment, we will share a link, a WooClap link that you can click into, and that will allow you to share and participate to the poll and the question that we're asking you, which is, what benefits, according to you, on society could addressing energy issues bring? And there is reason why we're talking about this and we're asking this question. It's actually because we think that all the SDGs are interconnected, and this is how we're going to begin our conversation. So this is why we were asking you the question. So talking about interconnection, as I said before, and I presented all the speakers, that you can actually realize that they're all taking a holistic approach in their impacts. And I would like to now address with all of them to learn a bit more about how they do that. So I will kickstart with Taryn. And I would, if you could just explain to us a bit more, Taryn, how with Hepburn Burns, you have with your diverse range of activities, and you're actually addressing energy issues, but also tackling other societal issues. Taryn, after you.
Sure. Thank you so much. So for those of you who don't know where Leonards Hill is, so we're located in Southeast Australia, around about an hour and a half away from Melbourne, which is the second biggest city in Australia. So really down in the south, and we're up in the highlands. So, you know, it can be pretty cold, summer can be pretty hot, and we have really good wind as well as solar. So, you know, putting a community wind farm in our location makes a lot of sense. And as you mentioned, we were the first community energy project in Australia, and we've proudly been generating clean energy for our community for 10 years this June. So we're very, very happy to hit that milestone, and soon we will add a 7.4 megawatt solar farm and a 10 megawatt hour battery storage facility up on our wind farm site as well. I guess we really see ourselves as not just a wind farm, but a community development organisation for our community to help support them to lead in their own transition with climate change. So we have a goal of reaching zero net emissions by 2030, and we really see our wind farm as a community asset. We have celebrations out there. We make it very accessible. We have murals on our turbines. Our two turbines have names, Gale and Gusto. And we just have a lot of engagement in the community, and obviously a lot of ownership as well. So we have 2,000 people who collectively put the money together to build and operate the wind farm. And as you also mentioned, we are really proudly an all-woman run wind farm. So it's 3 female executive staff that lead the wind farm. And we are also a cooperative. So we adhere to the 7 cooperative rules, which is all about democratic participation, really, and concern for the community, education, and those pieces. So for us, when we became certified with B Corp in 2016, as the first cooperative in the Southern Hemisphere, it was a really good melting pot of, I guess, ethics for us to combine what we are with the cooperative structure with the B Corp ethics, particularly around the environment and broader aspects. We have a range of partnership programs that we do in our community that have a very strong social justice lens applied to them. So we do programs like bulk buys or procurement, free energy audits for the vulnerable members of our community. We recently did a bulk buy with secondhand electric vehicles to make them more accessible and affordable for our community. But we're also going beyond energy and transport and looking at some of the other really big and tricky sectors in our community, like agriculture in particular, but also waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Taryn. And as I said, a very holistic approach. So we can see indeed how you're handling the whole life cycle of everything that you're doing. But as you said, being community-led and linking it with other citizen-led initiatives, and in the way that you're governing as well the company, it's all about connecting the dots together so that indeed it's not just about how we solve a specific problem using a business model, but how we integrate it into society and how the community operates so that it makes sense and everyone is doing it together, as you said, also part as being a cooperative. That's such an interesting model. And we actually talk about cooperative and community-led energy in even more in the second parts. Thank you again, Taryn. And then Monty, so Taryn in Australia, again, because we have actually speakers from all around the world, if you had noticed, one for each continent. So let's actually now travel a little bit more close by, but not too far, I would say, in Taiwan, and ask Corey, how do you address in such a holistic approach those energy related issues?
Hi, everyone. Thank you. And well, I think for us, initially, when we look into energy, it feels like something really dry. It wasn't something that people usually get their hands in. So for myself as well. So we wanted to create something that we can really feel it, something that we do, and we feel connected to the society. We feel connected to the impacts that we're making. So we come up with this idea that we call minus and plus. And minus meaning that what are things that we can do right now to reduce the burden for Earth. And for us, the simple ones, energy efficiency. And then with whatever that resource, that minus happen, can we reconvert that into plus, something that we can plan, to the society right now that makes things move faster down the road. It's like planting the trees, planting the seeds. It takes some time, but once you get past like 4 or 5 years, things are starting to move faster. So we kept on this philosophy and developed different programs that's easy for society to participate. So our latest iteration of it, we call it Power to Change. It's a way for society to come together to reduce paper bills, paper invoices. And when you do that, the banking companies reduce their costs. And then they reconvert that cost to support energy poverty in the society. And we reduce we turn their community into LED light bulbs, for example. And that would give it a long-term change. And so that this gives a way that anybody in the society can participate. In the last 4 years, we have over 1 million people became part of this. In that process, that they understand that each one of us has the power to shift something, even though when we're doing it, it's small, but that ripple effect happens. So this is kind of how we trying to experience the energy, not just on the technical side, but in a way that we can build that connection with ourselves, with energy poverty households, and with the environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Corey. And it's so interesting to see how you're also integrated in community, but in a different way, using the power of business and having a business model to mobilize citizens, actually, and individuals. And as you said, you're tackling energy poverty issues, but also at the same time educating citizens so that they also can tackle climate change related issues and better manage their own consumption. So it's very interesting that you're taking this approach, as you said, not only from a technology point of view, but also educating people so that in the end, as you said, it's a longer term solution. So, and 1 million is actually very impressive, right? Already, we hope that we can see more and more people joining the initiatives, as you had mentioned already when we were talking before, expanding to other countries as well in Southeast Asia. So we look forward to that. And then talking to Gilfin, because we keep on traveling in that conversation. And now we're moving to Africa and to Kenya. And would love actually to hear from you, Gilfin, how you're actually handling those issues in Kenya and taking also a holistic approach in your own way. Gilfin, we cannot hear you. Can you please unmute yourself? Sorry, it's the virtual technical aspects of it. Yes, please, to you, Gilfin.
Thank you. So I would say the issue of energy is a very interesting field. And when we began our operations as Solibrium Limited in Kenya in 2015, we began as a pilot where we were trying to see how we could help communities access clean energy. And what really is really interesting for us is that we came to realize that there was a huge hunger for solar, or rather electricity for the rural household. Initially, we've been dealing with the cook stoves, trying to help people to improve improve their indoor air circulation. But now we realize that indeed energy is an issue, and communities have really played a big role to ensure that we are able to access members of our people through reaching out in marketing activities, that is where our energy lies. So from where we stand, I would say is that we cannot go another way into energy without having the rural community getting involved, especially as the users, that is one, and two, as the lead marketing teams. There are some communities where you go there, the only way you could market the product is through their own people. There is one. And then the second thing you realize is that by engaging the rural community, you're able to help people generate income for their household. So at the end of the day, it goes down into improving also their livelihoods. And when you go back to the villages and you see the happy faces there, because you've enlightened them, you've educated them on issues of clean energy, you've provided options for income for them. They are staying engaged while working with the company in distribution of the solar products. I think that's a joy for everyone. And that is a big catalyst in ensuring that our people are able to access clean energy. Another big factor that I would say businesses would contribute towards access to energy to our people is through flexible payment modes. You realize that one of the reasons why many households do not have great electricity is for reasons of cost, that is one. And two, of course, there are areas where such projects have not really reached there. But offering solutions with flexible pay-as-you-go model of payment for solar, it helps people to really pay over a period of time. And so this goes with hand in hand with affordability, and also helping our clients and us staying connected through their journey into clean energy. So that is a really big thing that we've seen. And at the end of the day, it creates a cycle whereby you keep engaging the users on the solar that they use. I would say another thing that has cropped up as during our working is the issue of waste. And we realize it's not just the end product, but how these end products come into being. And so we have done massive education through many partners that we've had. We've partnered with My Climate Switzerland and also the Global Leap CLASP, just to ensure we are able to look into issues of e-waste. And people are really happy to ensure to know that we can still take care of them 5 years from now when their products are obsolete. And that would say embracing the entire chain of distribution for the solar, it's a big thing for us. And we're really happy to ensure that we are staying connected with our communities, even as we address the issues of energy.
Thank you, Yilsin. So interesting again that you're taking such an integrated and doing, as you said, the cycle approach and using energy in terms of economic empowerment for people from rural community, as you said, but also as similarly to how Corey is also addressing it in Taiwan, this aspect of education, but also in environmental related issues on making sure that we reduce the waste and we produce in a sustainable way the energy itself. Again, very interesting to see that different region, different approach, but in the end, trying to tackle again different societal issues in its own way and adapt it to the local context. But now I would just like to ask Thibaut about it. But before I ask unmute. Sorry, apparently I got muted while I was talking. So I don't know until when you heard me talking, but what I was saying was that we can see that indeed with the audience, we have very similar answers to what was shared by our speakers, talking about climate change, talking about reduced inequalities, because indeed having access to energy that can help to have a better access to education and opportunities in themselves. We have a word secular appearing, which is very interesting as well, and linked to what Gilfin was talking, for example, considering the life cycle of a product. And then we have also empowering, very interesting as well. So thank you for sharing those elements. I can see that you're all actually already aware and conscious of that interconnection of energy with other topics. So now moving to you, Thibault, and understanding from an investment fund perspective, not the business itself, but for you having this other angle, how do you invest in companies and the vision that you're taking, and how do you see this interconnection of energy with other aspects?
Thank you, Nila. On our side, when we invest in, when we assess on investment opportunities, we review it through, we have developed our in-house tool, and review the opportunity with four criteria. The first one is the social performance. Second one is the environmental performance. Fourth one is the sustainability of the solution, and the last one is the finance. Regarding the social performance, we have many criteria we review. About the gender equality, we review the percentage of women in the organization at board level. We see how the company is cautious towards its own staff, whether it has developed an health insurance, whether there is some dedicated training, annual review during the years, whether that's implemented a safety policy, and obviously the impact towards the population, whether it's inclusive, it's participate to women empowerment, it specifically serve disabled elderly people. And about environment, I can also quote a few examples. Obviously, we are targeting companies we reduce the most the emissions of carbon in the air, but we are also very interested in the company which have developed some recycling and who manage the end of life of their products. Also, we have developed their own green policy with zero waste, recycling, and everything. And that's a lot. So I mean, obviously, when they offer some solutions, sometimes it's in the to switch and reduce the use of fossil fuels. For instance, people are using candles to get lights instead of electricity, and it's very useful. And at the end, now we have a portfolio of 20 investees. And when we look at the SDG in the overall, I think across the 70 SDG, all of investees are, let's say, representing covering certain energy. For instance, we have the limitation of soil pollutions thanks to biogas. Some of our investees are equip some hospitals which were quite helpful during the COVID to store some vaccine, and they're also equipping some schools with lights, which is also very useful for education. So it was just to quote some examples. So I don't want to be too long.
No, that's so interesting. Thank you, Thibault, because as you are at the intersection and at seeing so many different business models and companies tackling that issue in different ways, that's really interesting to see how from an investor, you're actually taking into consideration not only the business model and profitability of the company, but looking at the impact, and not the impact on one topic, but how it's connected and doing in a sustainable way in itself. I'm actually wondering, but might be a polemical question, if you would invest in the other companies that we have today, but that's another question as well. I'm sure he would.
Definitely.
So that's really reassuring to see, because we always think that if we change companies, but if the rest of the system doesn't change, then it's not making it easy for companies to operate as sustainably in itself. But no, so we're seeing some investors that are now also not having a short-term profitability vision, but a longer-term vision, and also thinking along with the company to support them to bring the impact that the company is trying to have as well, together hand in hand as a partnership. It's very encouraging to see that it's moving all the different parts of the system together so we can work for that common vision. So thank you, Thibault. And that's actually a very good transition for our second, the other question that I wanted to ask all of you, and the other topic that I wanted to touch base upon, which is indeed the power of partnerships, and how partnerships and collaboration, which personally for me is one of the most important SDG for number 17, but the power and that this mindset can have so that we can get closer to achieving those goals. And we have another poll that is going now in the chat. So for the audience, again, please do not hesitate to contribute by answering the question. It's the same link still. So we will share it again right now so you can have access to it. And let us know, according to you, what is a more beneficial type of partnership that businesses can engage in order to accelerate that transition. But then before we watch the results and hear about the audience itself, I would like to ask Taryn, to you about collaboration. How do you actually use collaboration within being a B Corp yourself, and being, because you're a community and cooperative itself, how do you use the power of collaboration to accelerate the change that you're trying to bring at the local level?
Yeah, sure. So I guess our central focus is very place-based. So we're really working hard to make change in our community, to model things for other communities, to innovate and try like small pilot solutions that can be replicated or scaled up. So our impact's just absolutely maximized through the range of partnerships we have. We wouldn't not be able to be as impactful without those partnerships. And we partner with a lot of social enterprises, not-for-profits, other B Corps, other co-ops, in order to deploy these projects or programs to benefit our community. And I guess also we do everything under Creative Commons, so we can share our models and learnings freely with other communities, other businesses. And then there is advocacy. So we partner a lot with other community energy groups in Australia, as well as our advocacy groups like Friends of the Earth, in order to drive policy change across Australia, but both on a state and federal level, and to amplify our voice and to show that we've got the same message. And also our members, our 2,000 members, are really active in that space with us, which helps to amplify our voice. And then I guess we also know that we need to grow and learn. And so we've got some global partnerships that really support us to do that, such as a community energy network called the 10-2 Network, with friends in like Denmark and Japan and stuff like that. So yeah, we try and improve our practice through some of those networks as well. Thanks.
That's really so inspiring to see how you demultiply those partnership and collaboration for different perspective and use. As you mentioned, this idea of like improving yourself and sharing practices and knowledge with other like-minded organization, but also so interesting to see that you're a community-led farm. So you're acting at the local level, but you're partnering with others at the national level because you want to change a sector and change it at a larger scale. So it shows that even if you're actually small and acting with a limited scope, you can actually, by collaborating with others, still have an impact together as a coalition at a much larger scale. And you're not only partnering with businesses from the same sector, but with different type of stakeholders, because you're all playing a different role in that. So thank you for leading the way in that sense. And we look forward to see even more changes happening by the power, the accumulated power that you're all having by playing a role at your scale, but also accumulating coordinated way, making a change at a much larger scale. So interesting, really. Now, just want to ask Gilfin, just very rapidly, Gilfin, understanding also I am sorry, everyone. Apparently, my energy actually where I'm here, it's actually the internet connection is not that reliable. I was ejected from my room with my speakers, but I'm back and hopefully you can keep on talking. So again, so sorry for that inconvenience. Gilfin, can you hear me? I was asking a question. I think Gilfin is actually also having an issue or not. Can you try talking if you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, thank you so much. Maybe can you let us know just a 2 minutes, how you're actually partnering with government, because I think it's a very interesting type of partnership as well, how, because energy is some countries actually provided by public services and some others business solutions are provided. So can you let us know a bit more about how you articulate the value that you bring as a business working together with governments to accelerate the transition itself?
So like in Kenya, we are currently working with the government of Kenya to help, or rather to provide energy to communities that are in underserved counties. And by underserved, we mean there are those regions where completely there's no electricity, or the poverty levels are too high for people on the ground. And so what the government has done is to incentivize private companies to be able to do business in those counties. And for us, we've seen that really working, because through that, we've been able to activate 10 more regions above from what we are doing currently in our business. And you see, this comes with a lot of expansion on our end, and also being able to reach out to more masses of people, especially those with low income, or rather that are really disadvantaged when it comes to development. And this is one of the things that the government has been able to do. Of course, it's not single-handedly, it's with World Bank. We have those programs that are funded. And in a large way, they really contribute to having energy access being a reality for people that are really disadvantaged in our society. And so that is one of the things I must say is a big step for our government. In addition to that, we are also working with other like-minded organizations just to be able to package our business model in a way that it's acceptable to customers, or rather the clients, and also the partners that we work with, which are the local network of sales representatives. And I must say that as a B Corp, that is one of the key things that have really helped us to be able to take care of our people. And that is a big plus for us. Yeah.
Thank you, Gilfin. Again, very interesting to see that it has actually impact, and you have results also coming with complementing the value and resources that you're having, giving partnering, as you said, with government to get better access to people who are in need, and supporting with a different model that can make it, as you were saying even before, economic empowerment, so that people can have long-term solutions with an income, but also access to energy. And both you and Corey were actually emphasizing a lot on, indeed, also the education and awareness aspects on how both of you're actually working with your clients in a sense as well, to educate them so that they can also be a force for good themselves and adapt their own lifestyle, which is a type of partnership in itself, because you're advocating and taking the time to educate them. And looking at what the audience is sharing, because we're asking the audience its opinion, we can see that the most answer is actually working with other businesses and working with suppliers. So the audience today is actually strongly believes that the most efficient way for companies is to work with others and potentially making coalitions in order to scale up the transition, and with their own suppliers in their supply chain, which is still something that is not that common when we look at the behavior of companies and how they're operating in sustainability. Most of them actually restrict themselves to internal operations, but do not systematically involve their suppliers. But there is such a big potential of impact when we work together with our suppliers to bring those sustainability matters. And we hope more and more companies will do that. But one of the insights that we have in our latest report on the SDGs that you can find also in the website of BLab, and where we were analyzing the behavior of companies when contributing to the SDGs. So happy that all of you actually here are also thinking with the audience that it is important to indeed work with suppliers. But interestingly as well, none of you actually voted for working with clients and NGOs. So that's interesting to see the potential and how you feel it's more powerful to work with businesses. But I also, that the examples you had today with Corey talking a lot about how he's working together with citizens, and Gilfin talking as well, how they're empowering their clients, how the power that they have indeed in including the clients as a stakeholder in that approach and working with them. Talking still about education and awareness, Thibault, can I ask you from an investor perspective, what do you see and the role that investors can play and how are they being educated themselves in order to also bring that transition?
I think regarding investors, there was a big shift. Recently, I think we have seen major actors such as BlackRock, who have ending financing fossil fuel, and also Lobarondier, which became B Corp last year. And I think during the COVID, it was quite instructive because we have seen that it has demonstrated that the inclusive and businesses which generate impact were more resilient. So you can have both return and impact, which is key. So it was quite interesting. And now post-COVID, what we have seen is that we have more and more family office and impact fund, which are interesting to invest in the sector. But one key point is to define what is impact and what is not impact. Some huge funds are, let's say, requesting acting as an impact, but it's not really impact. It's just some tech fund. So it will be very important to create a common framework from impact to really differentiate which one is real impact from more than one, meaning generating social impact and not only environmental impact. So I think that's key. And regarding all the education and awareness, I think that in our portfolio we have some investees which are also organizing some. It was quite interesting what Corey said, because we have some investees which are organizing some prevention events to educate people about the let's say policies they can apply during their daily life. So it's very important to have everyone stepping in the journey. So.
Thank you, Thibault, and thank you for actually making it again wider and enlarging the scope, because I was asking about investor, and you naturally feel about involving every single stakeholder because you have this way of thinking, of systemic thinking, always connecting the dots and thinking of the system in itself. And that's a very good transition for the last question that I would have for all of you. We have another question poll for the audience. Again, we said it would be interactive and we want you to be part of a conversation. So we are going to share now in the chat a last question for this first part, because time flies, that we really want to also leave. If you have any question, actually, do not hesitate to share in the chat, and we can spend a few minutes also to ask them to the speakers. But before that, just answering that question poll, which is like, let's just brainstorm together. What do you share ideas on how companies can take action as well? You have here examples of companies that are playing a role with their business model, but also taking an integrated approach and trying to tackle different issues. What, according to you in the audience, are also ideas on how any company, even outside of its business model, can also contribute
event. So sorry about that. I don't know what is happening today. Really need to check that connection. Yeah, so I was just asking for each one of you if you could also share, maybe starting with Tareen, just a call, if you want to share a call to action to the audience with us today, so that they know exactly what they could do as well to contribute to that energy transition.
Sure. So I guess, you know, whatever you've got control over with your own sort of business or home, but, you know, buying renewable electricity, doing energy efficiency, installing renewable energy like solar or batteries, making sure that your suppliers are ethical. You can invest in a community energy project in your local area. You can do a zero net plan so that you're actively measuring your progress towards zero net emissions, become a B Corp, become an advocate for the environment, etc.
Thank you, Taryn. Corey, what's your call to action?
I think being a convener, like corporations that they have the power to convene their supplier, convene their colleagues, families together. And that's what we found, that we're people before we're organizations. So when they start using that as a power to interact with the people around them and kind of bring them together to talk about what can we do to reduce, what can we do to enhance society right now, and ideas pops up and then actions follow after that. But it's most critical that somebody stepped up and convene everybody together, have an open space, have people to come in, have a chat, talk about this topic, and then get in action. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. There is no small action that doesn't matter. As you're saying, every action counts at every level, and we all have a role to play. I really love that conclusion that many of you are actually saying as well. Maybe Thibaut as well, a call to action that you would want to share.
I think I'm totally in line with what has been said, but I will also, I think the journey is still long. Many business model does not exist yet. So I think we need also to don't hesitate to develop partnership, to structure alliance, because we know that to structure and to build the future of tomorrow, it's now we need to act. And we need to gather all of that to NGO, political, corporate institutions, because it's a, let's say, sequential process. And after awareness, we need also to investigate, to build some. So yeah, that's very important. So it's a global call for action.
Thank you, Thibaut. We're really playing at all levels indeed. Maybe I can ask as well, Gilfin, what's your call to action?
Yeah, I would agree with other speakers that aggressive campaigning about clean energy is key from where we stand. But I'm seeing in a direction whereby we really need to involve our people to actively participate in the transition. Let them see the need, let them get educated, let them get psyched up into the transition process, because you realize this will call for behavioral change. And it's something that people need to embrace and live with it for quite a longer time in this journey. And so for me, I would say really let us involve our people into the aggressive campaigns, and also partnerships.
We are losing Gilfin in the middle of such an interesting sentence. Well, that's unfortunate. But I feel like I'm actually
Yeah, I think we can still hear. Go ahead, Gilfin.
Yeah, so and also maybe we could package some interesting things around energy, appointing women as ambassadors of energy in regions, just having something going around that is a bit interesting for people to see and embrace and get interested about it. It's more having them getting involved in the transition. That's what I'm seeing currently. Of course, private companies in the solar space have multiple challenges, but that could be sorted out when there are good partnerships with maybe suppliers, investors around there. But involving the communities is key to ensure that the absorption and adoption is really going on speedily and smooth.
Thank you so much, Gilfin. You're all complementing each other in the way that you share indeed those call to action and in the insight that you have to bring. And I do hope that this session has been and is being insightful for all the audience altogether. We are coming close to the end in terms of timing, but just to share some answers that some of the audience have put together in the poll that we had put. Some of you are talking about indeed measuring your own energy consumption at a company level. Some of you are talking about the advocacy work that the company can take itself and promote the SDGs and education, similarly to what Corey was saying. And I see a last answer also linked to reducing, of course, your emissions and carbon footprints as a corrected and directed way to reduce, to better use the energy consumption, but also the impact on the environment that you're having. So I'm happy and I hope this will inspire you listening to us to understand indeed the role that you can play, to feel empowered and motivated with those speakers to also act yourself, and curious enough to check out how you can do it in terms of methodology and measure your own impact so you can start taking action, because there is an urgency linked to the Sustainable Development Goals and we need everyone, as all the speakers mentioned, in order to do it. So a big thank you to each one of you for joining us and sharing your knowledge and insight, but also for the work that you're doing on an everyday basis. And we will move now to a second part of our events, which is still linked to energy, but taking more of the citizen-related approach, citizen-led approach, and talking about the power of citizen-led communities. So before we are being joined by our second set of speakers, we will actually share a video or trailer of a really interesting documentary that you will see just in a few seconds.
We have a system built over the last 100 years of conglomerates who have no responsibility to individual communities.
The local economy is dying. We have energy poverty, climate change.
This is about global capitalism out of control.
Ich möchte gerne Teil der Lösung sein und nicht Teil des Problems.
Que pensem que els ciutadans, les persones, hem d'estar al centre, no, d'aquesta lluita.
Sondern unsere Frage war einfach, was können wir selber, jeder Einzelne, machen?
Al principi de tot, que nosaltres volíem, no, tenir la nostra generació.
So ist dann die Idee entstanden, hier das Stromnetz zu übernehmen, was ja eigentlich eine wahnwitzige Idee ist.
In the beginning it was a lonely fight. We were only a handful of people.
We were far outnumbered by the armies of the energy companies. It is a coup. It's a coup by citizens.
There's two forms of energy. You have the electrical energy, and you have the human energy. Blasts through anything. It can go around the problem like water.
These are my solar panels. Join us, become a member.
If you look at revolutions that succeeded, the initiatives taken by citizens, I strongly believe that we can take control of the energy production of the future.
That provides me with hope that we can make a difference.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maria Correa, Head of Marketing and Communications at B-Lab Europe, and I'm really excited to host the second part of today's panel discussion around affordable and clean energy. And I love the energy coming out of that first part, touching on the importance and interconnectedness of community and the energy transition and getting people psyched up. So we'll continue that discussion talking about how and why the energy transformation will be citizen-led. So you just saw a trailer, a short preview of Patagonia's documentary, We the Power, that shows that by 2050, currently 1 million people are involved in Europe's growing citizen-led renewable energy movement. And by 2050, that could be more than 260 million, helping generate up to 45% of European Union's electricity from clean sources that provide local jobs, reduce energy bills, and result in a stronger social fabric. So today, we're really excited to be joined by Patagonia and Rescoop, who have come together to champion that citizen-led community energy movement in Europe. And I'm thrilled to introduce you to our next speakers, who will spend the next half hour discussing businesses' role in this movement. So Gina Lovett is the Environmental Initiatives Manager across EMEA at Patagonia. And as many of you know, Patagonia is committed through their voice, their support for grassroots groups across Europe, and their actions as a responsible business to really advocate for this revolution in energy. And we're also joined by Stavroula Papa, who's the project manager at Rescoop, which is one of the policy groups that Patagonia has partnered with through this initiative with We the Power. Rescoop is a European-wide federation of community energy cooperatives with over 1,900 European energy cooperatives. And there are 1,250,000 citizens who are active in the energy transition. So lots of incredible momentum. So welcome, Gina and Stavroula.
Thank you very much. It's really great to be here this morning and to be with you all. And thanks to B-Lab for this, this great invitation. We're going to mix it up a little bit this morning because we're going to ask each other questions rather than just having Maria do all the hosting. And we thought before we jump into discussion today, we'd like to get a bit of a temperature check. So to continue on the interactivity that we've had from the first part. And we'd really like to get a gauge of the understanding and awareness that people have of community energy. So I think we're going to do a poll and that will come up on screen, or you'll have the link. And should I read out the question, Maria?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, cool. So the question is, and this is multiple choice, how aware of or interested is your business in community energy? And you've got a choice of, we're already working with community energy, so you may be very familiar with it. B, you're currently considering how you can work with community energy, so there's some awareness and interest there. C, we're interested to learn more, so you maybe just have learned about it. Or D, we're really not aware of community energy. So I think that the results will maybe come up a little bit later, and that Maria, you'll come back to those. Okay, so I'm just going to get started then. And while we're waiting for those results to come in, I will ask Stavroula a question. And really just to get everybody on the same page, because community energy is quite different across Europe and around the world. What exactly is community energy, and what is its role in the SDGs and achieving those and in tackling the climate crisis?
Thank you very much, Gina, for your question, and thank you very much for the invitation in today's discussion. I enjoyed the first part, and I do believe that this trailer on the Patagonia movie is already a very good introduction on what community energy is. And I will then jump right into the first part of your question. And so energy communities represent, I would say, a new business model that allow for citizen participation in the energy transition. And specifically, most of our members in Rescoop EU are energy cooperatives, a business model where citizens jointly own and participate in renewable energy or energy efficiency projects. And they follow the 7 cooperative principles that were mentioned already in the first part. So democratic governance, and open and voluntary membership, education, trainings. So I would make here a comparison to the old regime, which is an energy market dominated by big monopolies based on fossil fuels. And we see that the energy transition does offer the opportunity to involve more stakeholders in the energy market. And I would like to take 1 minute to talk about the new legislation that is set in the European Union level and the clean energy package that was introduced in 2019, which acknowledged the role of citizens in the energy transition and actually introduced 2 new definitions for energy communities, the renewable energy communities, and the citizen energy communities. And what is very important to mention here in this context is that it is specified in the directives that the main aim of these two definitions is to bring environmental, social, and economic benefits to the local society where they operate. So I would say that I see that as a main connection point with the sustainability principle, which is an overarching principle in the SDGs, meaning that the economic development should only be in line and should take into account always the environmental and social aspects. And coming back to these two definitions that I mentioned, just to let you know that they should be transposed into the national legislations of the member states. And this means that in all the member states in Europe, the citizens will have the right from the legislation to develop an energy community and participate in the energy transition. Going now back to the second part of your question on the role of community energy in the climate crisis, I would like to start with the fact that there is a large potential of community energy in the energy transition. I would like to mention a Sea Delft study that was held some time ago that we also participated in RescuePU, which stated that by 2050, at least 50% of the European Union citizens could own half of the renewable energy installations in the region. I see that as a huge potential and a very big contribution to the energy transition. And I would also like to talk a bit about the specific contributions that we see that community energy has in the energy system. Of course, there are environmental benefits. There is an increase in the renewable energy production, the reduction of CO2 emissions, but there is also a large social added value of community energy. It is stated that the energy cooperatives foster the social acceptance of renewable energy, which is a big problem in a lot of regions, specifically with wind turbines. So the local opposition to renewable energy projects decreases when citizens take part in it and are given the opportunity to invest and co-own such a project, a renewable energy project. And of course, participating in an energy community allows people to understand why it is important, the renewable energy is important, raise awareness, and there are studies that show that members of communities, of energy communities, lower also their own energy consumption, which is also very important. And I would just like to finish with the important economic benefits that come with community energy, because the profits of such projects stay locally. They do not fly away from the community. And there are, of course, a lot of jobs being created through energy cooperatives and energy communities. And I will stop here, and then I would pass the word back to Eugene, and I would like to ask you more specifically about Patagonia and why a big corporation who is in business to protect the planet, Patagonia, is involved in this movement in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, that's a core question. Why does a company that specializes in sportswear and outdoor technical gear, why are we involved in community energy? And, I come back to, at the heart of everything we do is our mission. So as you said, Stavroula, we're in business to save our home planet. And that means, when we think about our communications, we think about our marketing, our sales, our product, our operations, everything that we do has to lead back to that mission. So at a very, very high level, that's something that's been driving us towards solutions to the climate crisis. Now, the other thing that we're thinking about is the climate science. And, the IPCC report came out last month, and that really underlined the need for not just change, but radical system change. We need to eliminate fossil fuels now, as soon as possible. So that means we can't just switch technologies over with the same old power structures. We need to change our mindset in line with the urgency of the problem. And we began speaking to rescue and community energy groups at a grassroots level as far back as 2018. So we realized that this movement has potential for that radical change because of the participation, because it can redirect financial flows back to communities so that they benefit, that they can put that towards alleviating energy poverty, or it can go into, alleviating youth unemployment. So it has a real potential. And we felt that this potential was not really widely understood, or it wasn't being, didn't get the attention it deserved. So that's why we conceived of this film, We the Power, and the campaign to give it this visibility and to give it a kickstart. So we've seen the kind of impact of the campaign, that it has been a chance to question the monopolistic and polluting energy system that we have. It's provided, or it's still providing, inspiration as to how we can do things differently. At the same time, we want to support community energy as much through our operations. And like many companies, we have set a goal of 100% renewable energy. So we felt that, given the current energy system, and I think it's important to mention this, so particularly in Europe, when you get renewable energy, the energy system is still dominated by certificates of origin. And essentially what that means is, there are energy companies that are still powered entirely by fossil fuels, but they are selling renewable energy tariffs via these certificates. So for us, that's just shuffling the deck chairs. And we want to really go beyond this. So let's support something that is going to actually change the system. And, by supporting community energy through, our stores and our showrooms, we can know that that source is a local one, and that it's also going to support those local communities. So there are verifiable social impacts. So it has environmental and social impact. So those are the main reasons. I think for, just to mention, for other businesses as well, because not every company has the same mission as Patagonia, it is quite special in that regard, that there are, for other businesses that need, harder KPIs, and to make that business case to their senior management team of why we would get involved in this, community energy does actually represent a very good investment opportunity. So, for their examples of funds in France that have a 4% return, and Stavroula, you can speak more to that, I'm sure. And also there's a really good fit for SMEs. So, smaller businesses that really want to be and can be a champion of their local communities by, them really build trust with a local network. And Patagonia itself, we see our stores as a gift to the community. So we're constantly thinking about how we can support those groups. So with that, question back to you, Stavroula. The community energy movement is slowly building across Europe, but there are still milestones to reach, and there are still hurdles and challenges to break through. Could you just tell us a little bit about what the needs of community energy in Europe are, and what specifically business can help with?
Thank you very much, Gina. That's another very interesting question. I would say that maybe we should first check out the results of the first poll. Maybe Maria, back to you for that, and happy to answer to the question right after that.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. And actually, there's been a slight mix-up in the poll. So we actually went ahead to the second poll, and I've already gotten some really interesting responses in that, which is a great segue, I think, Gina, from what you were talking about on all the different ways that Patagonia as a business and other B Corps and other businesses all around the world are already contributing to the community energy movement. And right now what we've seen is that the top results, so the question was, what role could your business play in advancing community energy? And we saw that the top results were investing in community energy on a sector-wide scale through power purchase agreements. And that was tied with provide rooftop space for the solar panels which is something, lots of examples that we see in the We the Power documentary already. And then the third answer was encourage our employees to join or invest. And I think that's quite inspiring too, to think of this movement as something that every individual has a part to play in, but also those individuals can then kind of inspire their businesses to create change at scale as well, which I think is a great segue to the question that Gina had already kind of directed back to Sabrula on, you know, looking at kind of this role that the businesses are already thinking of advancing community energy. What are those needs of the community energy movement across Europe? So where do you believe that businesses can really play a part in helping with that?
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Maria. And I see that the responses to the poll are completely in line with what I had in mind on mentioning. As I already told you before, the community energy movement has a lot of potential and it can grow bigger with the support of businesses. And there are a lot of ways for this to be done. And the simpler way that it comes to mind is that businesses can choose their local energy cooperative as their energy supplier and support in this way their work. But the new legislation said at the European Union level, and the new definitions allow for small and medium enterprises to become a member in an energy community, meaning that a business can actually participate as a member of the community into the decision making, but also into the development of the project. And I agree a lot with the poll and the fact that when the employer is a member in such a community, this helps a lot into passing the knowledge and raising awareness to the employees in the business and providing visibility to this movement. Another way now for businesses to support community energy is something that was already mentioned in the first part of today's discussion, and is the example of partnerships being developed with businesses and energy cooperatives. And I can give you some examples from Belgium. I could actually start with the Oxfam example in Ghent, where businesses exactly offered their roof space to energy cooperatives so that they can install solar panels. And then they got energy at a lower price, which is a simple partnership, but really effective and useful for both businesses and energy communities. And now there's also a partnership with Partago, which is an e-car sharing cooperative. So the electric cars are being charged by the solar panels on the roof, and then the cars are used by some of the employees of the businesses. And there's also another example coming again from Belgium, from Antwerp this time. And there is again a partnership, a collaboration between two cooperatives there, EcoPower and Switrand, who are working with a business, AGFA, and there's also a private developer and a municipality this time, and they are developing a district heating project. And the industrial residual heat of AGFA, the chemical company, will be used to heat the homes of a new living district there. And I think the plan is that initially around 350 homes will be connected to this project. And the citizens can become a co-owner of the district heating network through the two energy cooperatives that participate in this project. I think these are really interesting examples on how businesses could form partnerships with the energy communities. And another way that comes to mind, that it was already mentioned in the poll, is through investments and funding and support through this way. And there is already the example of solidarity funds. And I could give an example of one of our members in France, Énergie Partagée, and they have developed a solidarity fund, which is called Énergie Solidaire, and they are gathering some donations which are directly being used to fund projects to tackle energy poverty. So that's also a really crucial part in of the work of energy communities, and where businesses can have a vital role and support a lot So yes, these are the examples that come to mind right away, and I would pass back to you, Maria, then for the next poll, I think.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. And I think that last point that you made on the interconnectedness of how these different movements help each other out, and the connection between SDG 7 and affordable and clean energy, but also reducing energy poverty and the role that this movement can play in tackling not just climate change, but also kind of reducing inequalities and creating changes at scale. Is something that's really exciting and interesting to see how businesses can tackle lots of these different issues by getting involved. And I think looking at the results of some of the polls, the two biggest, the main answer that we received for the poll about kind of the general awareness around community energy is that people are interested in learning more, which is great. But there also is still a lack of awareness around community energy, which is why initiatives like We the Power and having companies like Patagonia invest in generating engagement and awareness and helping promote understanding of what community energy is so key to advancing this across Europe, but also across the world. Which I think leads me to think of, now that, you're building this awareness, you're building this momentum, and there's momentum happening not just within the community, but also across legislation as well. We've already touched on the role businesses can play, but how specifically can businesses get involved in the We the Power initiative, as well as other risk group initiatives that are going on? So maybe this is a question to both of you, but Gina, perhaps you could start first and then pass it back to Sabrina.
Sure. Well, in the run up to early next year, and this is specifically on We the Power campaign, we're beginning to speak to our network, and this comes back to the poll from part 1, which spoke to like the collaboration between companies and suppliers. So for us, it's really important to have those conversations, for example, with our wholesale dealers and our retail partners, and what is it that they can do, or how would they like to get involved? So some of them very simply can switch over and become a customer or a member of Community Energy, but perhaps they would like to also get involved in screenings, or to really spread the word and give more visibility to Community Energy, so they also have a customer base. And I think that this really kickstarting this kind of ripple through our network can help have an exponential effect. So that's what we're going to be working on in the next few months. And early next year, we're hoping to have a collective moment where we will stand together. We want to show that civil society and responsible good business is working together for energy transformation. And this can be a surprising coalition. So that for us will be a really powerful moment. And I guess my call to the group here, or to the audience here, is, if you want to get involved in this in some way, just please get in touch and we can have a conversation.
Very interesting, Gina. Yes, I would then add to that, because I completely agree, and that it's very important to have some immediate next steps, and maybe a call to action also from our side on what you can do. You can reach your national federations, you can reach your neighboring energy cooperative, and actually ask how you can support, how you can participate. And for this region, we have on our website, you can already find a map with all the community initiatives, with several actually community initiatives around Europe. So you can use this map to find your closest initiative and support already existing energy cooperatives. But also, as I mentioned before, there is the possibility to participate as a member in an energy community and develop your own energy community. And for that reason, in Rescue we have produced, together with Friends of the Earth Europe and Energy Cities, a practical handbook. So a step-by-step analysis on how to set up an energy community with a lot of examples from existing energy communities around Europe, and a lot of, I would say, advice on how to raise awareness to the local society on the need to develop such an energy community. You can also find this practical handbook on our website, and we have translated this document already in many languages that can be used to raise awareness in your local community, in your neighborhood. So maybe we could send this already in the chat, but you can also find it in our website.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. And yeah, we will be linking directly to that map of community energy initiatives across Europe, as well as that handbook directly in the chat, as well as the full documentary for We the Power, which has already over 1 million views, and I think gives a really great overview of what's happening in different corners around Europe and the momentum around this, but also is a great resource to find out more about the movement. And so with that, we'll turn it into an open Q&A. So please do use the chat to ask any questions that you might have, or clarify anything, or find out ways that you can get involved. And with that, we'll kind of start our first question, which is, I think, we both touched on, you both touched on legislation that's happening across the EU, as well as the IPCC report. So, and obviously we're here celebrating day 7 of our 17 Days for 17 Goals campaign started by B-Lab. So I think looking at these different goals, so the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, the Paris Agreement, these changes that are happening in EU legislation, there's a lot of momentum and a lot of drive to take action now and work towards these tangible plans. So why should businesses care about these different deadlines?
I can start off with that one. I mean, I think at a fundamental level, Patagonia, really recognizes that if we don't meet these deadlines and listen to the science and really take full responsibility, and that means taking full responsibility, being transparent about everything, then we're not going to have a business in 10 years. We're not going to have a business in 15 years. So the more and more businesses and companies are realizing that the interests are not separate from the well-being of society. So what's good for society, what's good for the environment is going to be good for your business. So at a fundamental level, that's why it's really important for us to meet these deadlines. And I think that when you're working towards one, you're also working towards the other, because they are all interconnected. As we've seen with, if you're working on SDG 7 and going about it through community energy, you can achieve many others. So I think when you find the right solutions and the right approaches, then it is a win-win situation. But yeah, for us, we take these policies and these deadlines very seriously, and we also want to try and go beyond, above and beyond.
I really do agree with what Jean already mentioned, and I will stick to the interconnection of all these different legislative documents, because for example, the Paris Agreement that is set in an international level has a very ambitious target in order to avoid the temperature to rise. And the SDGs also are in line with this and try to reach this, and this is the main aim. And of course, the legislation that is set in the European level and the targets that are set in the European legislation by 2030 and 2050 are very ambitious, and of course try to reach exactly the same goal. So to me, it's exactly this, that we should all contribute, and all these ambitious goals on the reduction of CO2 emissions and the increase of renewable energy cannot be achieved only by a handful of people. We should all contribute to that, because they are very challenging, and this is now the moment to do something to reach those targets. So if it's only up to our hands and to everyone's hands to contribute to reaching these targets.
And I think that's quite an inspiring message. You know, I think when we talk about SDG 7, a lot of there's a misconception that that's the role of energy companies to kind of lead that transition. But I think what this discussion and what the whole community energy movement has inspired me and hopefully inspired our whole audience as well to realize is that, you know, as an individual, but also no matter what business or industry you're in, you can play a key role in being a part of that transition and making changes yourself. So another question that's come up was, what do you think are the key challenges for a business to get involved in this, whether that's legislative or operational? What are the barriers standing in the way to accelerating this movement?
Shall I kick off with that? That's a really good question. I mean, I think on some levels, there are barriers, like if you're switching over to community energy, it depends if you know, who's managing that contract. So is it a landlord, and are you part of the bigger building and just, you know, renting a small room in that? Then yeah, how much control you have over that contract, it will need negotiation and discussion, etc. We have different setups across Patagonia, but what we found is that, you know, just to start engaging in those discussions, sometimes they actually go quite quickly. So those are kind of, you know, just one type of sort of operational barrier. I think another that we see across the movement, and this will come up more and more as businesses work together with community energy groups, there can be a mismatch in the kind of knowledge and expertise and skills. So companies may require particular knowledge on things that community energy groups may not have. And I come back to Rescoop and the work it does, that, you know, it's super important in the creation of national federation groups that are able to be that intermediary. And we found, you know, in Italy and France, we work really closely with Energy Partagé and with Nostra, that those groups, you know, perform that support for community energy groups at the local level really well. So I think that you know, to aid the communication and the cooperation between business and community energy, that these national federations are very, very important. And yeah, they should be supported.
Yes, I may add to that, because this is exactly also the role of Rescoop EU. We're trying to advocate for a legislation at the European Union level which is beneficial for community energy, because there are a lot of barriers that our members are facing, especially into competing with larger market players, which is very difficult for energy cooperatives, which their members are citizens. So the legislation can be a barrier, and this is very important to advocate for the rights of the community energy, and also forming national federations or participating in this movement and supporting as much as you can into this.
Great. And another question that's come up is, you know, we've been talking about the momentum of this, and especially kind of to your point, Stavroula, around legislation and the momentum that has here in Europe. Can you shed some light on why kind of the movement's been growing so rapidly in Europe, and if there's opportunity and potential for that to also accelerate around the world, or evidence of it already accelerating in different parts of the globe?
Sure, yes. So the energy cooperatives is not a new concept. I would say there is in some countries, like in Germany or in Denmark, there is a huge tradition and history of energy cooperatives that exist for a long time already. and they are showing the way. But into the traditional energy market of monopolies, it was not very easy to form such cooperatives. And many countries, especially in the south of Europe and the east of Europe, they didn't have this model. And what is now helping a lot, and why do we see this huge growth on community energy at the moment, is partially also because of the legislation allowing and giving this opportunity and this right to the people to form energy communities. And it is important to state that it's not only enough to have a definition into the national legislation saying this is community energy, this is an energy community, but it's very important to also include in the legislation an enabling framework of how this energy community could be being developed, how it could be funded, how it would be supported to develop energy projects, and having a more round approach into the legislative system. And so what played a crucial role, and we would expect for the community movement to rise, is the 2019 Clean Energy Package that I already mentioned, and the two definitions set at the European level, because now each member state should transpose those definitions in the national legislation. So in every country, even in countries like in Poland or the Czech Republic, that they didn't have the model of energy cooperatives, they will now have legislation on energy communities, and people will be able to participate in the energy transition as their right. So we're really working on this, and we're really interested to see how this will evolve.
Yeah, the role of legislation is so key into advancing not just the community energy movement, but also all transitions to encourage more businesses to operate with society and the interests of the environment at heart as well. And we have a comment on YouTube from Hassam talking about, agreeing with Gina that the benefits of the environment and then the society should have priority to economic benefits of business, simply because the last one is subject to prior issues. And it's great to see that thought coming through, because that's also something that the B Corp community is advocating for and has always stood for. And great to see kind of champions in Patagonia and the growing community energy movement in bringing that to life and setting the bar higher for other businesses to follow as well. And so with that, we're getting to the end of our second panel. So I'd love to thank Gina and Stavroula again for our time and for everybody who tuned in to this conversation. And again, kind of in the chat, you can find clear next steps that you could take right now to join the community energy movement. So find out how you can switch your power supply, use that map of community energy initiatives, use that handbook as a resource, and also get involved in the We the Power campaign. But Gina and Stavroula, if you have any closing remarks before we tune out.
Just thank you very much for this opportunity, and it's been really great to hear, to have this discussion here with you, but also to hear from the participants in the first part. And I really believe, community energy is a solution that can bring about radical change. So if you want to get involved and join hands on this, then get in touch.
I would also like to thank you a lot for this invitation and this discussion. And maybe a closing remark would be for my side to also urge you to watch the Patagonia movie, because it's very inspiring, I would say, and it has a lot of stories from our members, and I think you will really enjoy it.
Great, thank you so much, and thanks again to everybody who's joined. And please tune in over the next couple of days throughout the month for the rest of our 17 Days for 17 Goal campaign to learn about how businesses can accelerate action across all of the SDG goals. Thank you again. Thanks for everything.